Okay, I don't know.
I don't either.
Crevasse.
Was located within the Tenure Peak. This is not far from the Sunrise High Sierra camp where Eris disappeared. But yeah, his body just turned up there. Now, he's never been identified, but analysis of the body was never able to determine the cause of death. Obvious signs such as blunt force trauma or multiple broken bones that might evidence a fall to his death in the gorge were not present, so he didn't die that way. So it's just a dead body in a deep ravine, basically.
Crevasse. However you said it.
Crevasse.
Okay, we're getting hung up on the wrong part of this story.
Right.
He just turned up as a dead man.
Yes. Now...
Ice block crevice.
Oh, okay. In 1976, Jeff Estes went missing. That was a little more than a mile away from the gorge where the body of the mystery man turned up. He was 25 years old. Even after official search efforts, as well as the efforts of family and friends, not a shred of evidence was ever found. He simply vanished.
Just went poof?
Simply went poof.
Went up in dust.
All the poof.
Poof.
In 1988, we had the disappearance of Timothy Barnes. Now, this is mid-July, slightly northeast from the site where the mystery man's body was discovered 20 years earlier. Similar to the Jeff Estes case, even after meticulous search efforts, not a shred of evidence surfaced. And these instances exemplify one of the anomalies within these cases, is that within a few square miles, a lot of these disappearances tend to happen. Now, in the instance of the Stacey Eris case, David Paulides also encountered another perplexing obstacle. He filed a Freedom of Information request to access the original Eris case file, and he was denied and contacted directly by a special agent from the national park. The man told him that they would not release the file, but they provided no explanation for what was, by all accounts, a perfectly normal and reasonable request. And again, David Paulides isn't you or me. He's not a podcaster going, I want to check this out. He is a retired law enforcement officer, so him taking an interest in this case you'd think would be a good thing.
You would think. But then again, I mean, that's not exactly the kind of thing that, Mr. Mayor wants on
But see,
anybody's radar.
This wasn't denied by a mayor, as near as I can tell. It was denied by a special agent. In fact, at one point when he was talking with them, he was told that the federal government was not going to release this information, certainly not with the amount of books he published.
That's weird, but okay.
Yeah. Now, in 2012, we had the disappearance of Ronald Kirk. He's a runner. He's a former Marine. He knew the Red Rock Canyon, Calico Basin area very well. He went missing in late January. He had a history of spending time outdoors, especially in that area. So when he let his friends know where he was going, no one was concerned. This is the last time anyone ever saw him. He was found months later after an extensive search in a spot surrounded by established trails. He was less than 200 meters from a popular route called Turtlehead Peak. Authorities justified the delay in the discovery of his remains as an optical anomaly. They said that the body blended in with the pigment of the local soil and rock formations. But this was an area that searchers covered multiple times before they found the body. The lack of a definitive cause of death and the general absence of communication with the family from law enforcement was also strange.
That is strange.
And that's another thing that will mark some of these. When bodies do turn up, a lot of times it's in a place that was thoroughly searched.
So, like, they're saying, we've been there, but now here's... Well, but...
It's like the power of mothers when you're searching for something. Hold
So
on, you know these moments when you're just in your room looking for something, you're just like, I can't find it. I can't find it. I'm gonna go ask Mom. Mom? Your mom's just like, what? I'm busy. Can't you see? It's just like, I lost whatever I lost. Your mom goes and there checks where you've checked before. Is this it? What?
Well, I'm glad Kristlyn has it all figured out. Why we even do the show? It's the power of missing things when you have a mom. They just need to take their moms out there and they'd be able to find... No, that's not true. That wasn't very nice. I shouldn't say things like that because I don't want to...
But, yeah, and remember that some of these cases are still active. So let's be
considerate of that.
So, I wasn't talking about how... I was just saying that's what it reminded me of.
Now, as we go through these, people have a lot of theories about it. There are some people who say that these people are abducted and or killed by Bigfoot or other cryptids. A lot of people suggest that UFOs have something to do with this, especially because in a lot of these areas, UFO sightings overlap these areas of disappearance.
Okay.
So aliens?
That's one theory. Now, theorists also propose like a serial killer that's stalking the parks, but that doesn't make any sense to me because look at the time frame. What serial killer is active from 1968 to 2012?
And why are they still alive?
Well, Krysta, I was born in 1968, and I'm still alive, and I'd like to stay that way for a little while, but I certainly couldn't have kidnapped anybody in 1968.
Okay, but how could you be a baby running around with a knife and be like, Chia!
I don't know. Now, another thing that people suggest is that it's an occult sect or some sort of weird cult that's hunting these people on the prowl.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd think people would see something.
Right.
Fringe theorists also tend to view the institutional apathy with suspicion. In other words, there seems to be a reluctance on the part of any major body to investigate these. So much so, for example, that when I was doing the research on this, now I looked this up months ago, just because I'd happened to see it on something or hear it on an episode of Graveyard Tales or something. And at the time I looked it up, first thing that popped up was Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
And Wikipedia had this nice, long little history. When I went to research this, the Wikipedia entrance didn't pop up. I had to go to Wikipedia to search for it. And then instead of being sort of an overview of what had happened, it was like this long list of debunking stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's happening a lot on Wikipedia. Like people are going through and just, if there's any whiff of paranormal or oddity to it, they're Xing it out. So I don't know what's causing that.
Crossing it off the list. Mm-hmm. But wow, we need that. Are you trying to get rid of us?
In fact, when David was interviewing people about some of these cases, for example, he was helping to search for a missing child in 2013. And during that search, both the FBI and the National Guard were engaged. And a forest ranger that witnessed the exchange between these two groups described it as two entirely different operations that seemed to have their own agendas. There was an active effort to distance themselves from each other, the FBI and the National Guard, from the National Park Service, and even the parents of the missing child.
That's a little weird.
Well, okay.
And
chill.
Now, another thing that David has known is these disappearances tend to happen somewhere near bodies of water, also near granite boulders, There are strangely small distances of separation between the victims, Stacey Arras and Ronald Kirk. They were both very close to one another. And that a lot of these people tend to be adept outdoor people who aren't going to commit stupid errors.
They're smart.
Or so they think.
Now, all of that I got from History's Mysteries. The next bit we will go into comes from a website called Mysterious Universe, because I did a lot of research, a lot of scattershot research. So, but before we get into that, I think we should take a moment and hear these words from our sponsors. Yeah. What did it do? What did it do? What did it do? What did it do?
Can we get back to the show now?
I guess.
Thank
if you don't like my music, you know.
I don't have a problem with music. I'm not sure that's what that was, but...
Yeah, no. I'd rather hear...
I love you, honey.
I love you, too. Now, this particular case that I'm about to bring up took place in Pike National Forest, which is in Douglas County, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that went missing is an 84-year-old theology professor by the name of Dr. Maurice Demetz. D-A-M-E-T-Z. Demetz. In 1981, he was mostly known for his fire and brimstone religious rhetoric and his many writings of how he believed the literal Antichrist was going to appear in our lifetime. Mm. But he soon became even better known for his odd disappearance. Because when he wasn't talking about God and Jesus and religion and fire and brimstone, he liked to collect rocks. And on this day, he was out in the forest along with his friend David McSherry hunting for topaz. Now, the way they did things, because he was 84, he did not get around really well. And David had to get him around quite a bit of the time. We're not talking about a spry billy goat that's going to go jumping around. The way that would work, Sherry would help him get to a place. He would drop down to look for rocks in that place. Sherry would move on and do his own searching, then come back in 5, 10, 15 minutes to check on it.
Mm-hmm.
Did it go wrong?
And typically they would only separate for periods of about 15 minutes at the longest. So at one point, he dropped off Demetz and went his own way. Maybe was 100 yards away at most. Goes to back to check on him 10 minutes later. Man was nowhere to be seen. And we're talking about a guy, like I said, his knees were so bad it would have been impossible for him to get very far or fast on his own. A sweep of the surroundings turned up nothing. Not only was Demetz gone, but all of his tools were as well. And so the best Sherry could come up with is, well, maybe he had to go back to the car. So he walks back to the car. Of course, he's not there either. A complete search of the area turned up no trace of him. And after the authorities got involved, there's a 5-day intensive search with grid pattern searches that didn't turn him up. And the thing is, this happened at a place called Devil's Head, which in native folklore is believed to be a haunted place inhabited by evil spirits.
Oh, it sounds like it might have been for this gentleman.
And there's, according to the locals, there's a long tradition of people going missing there. And to this very day, Dr. Maurice Demetz remains missing. No trace at all. Now, this one's going to be a little sadder. This is the case of 10-year-old Bobby Bizup, B-I-Z-U-P. Maybe it's Bizup. I'm not sure.
I'm already sad.
Don't.
He was attending a Catholic camping retreat called Camp St. Malo at the Rocky Mountain National Park, along with a group of other youths. On August 15th, The introverted and partially deaf Bizup went down to a place called Cabin Creek in order to do some fishing. Nothing is unusual about